Hi, everyone. This is your host, Kat Corchado. Today, I am interviewing Fostoria Pierson, once married to a Marine who physically and sexually traumatized her for their entire marriage. I just wanted to warn everyone who feels that Fostoria's story may trigger them that you may hear some unnerving and unsettling facts about her abuse. But what you'll also hear is how she triumphed in spite of her abuser and how there are now organizations that are available to men and women to help with the recovery process. Let's hear her story. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sisters in Service. My name is Kat Corchado, and I welcome to everyone who's new. And for those of you who have been listening, thank you so much. So today I have as my guest Fostoria Pierson. She is a PhD in Human Services. She is the president of the Blue Star Mothers chapter in Charlotte. She's a certified care and counsel for trauma for military ministry. She's also founder of the nonprofit Grandma's Hands. And most recently, she's the author of the book, Marine's Wife, A Battered Life. And she's also my friend. I would like for everyone to welcome Fostoria Pierson. Fostoria, welcome.
Oh, thank you. And welcome to you. And I'm so glad to be doing this podcast with you this afternoon.
Yes, I'm so glad we had connected. And, you know, with COVID, Fostoria and I haven't talked or anything. And out of the blue, she calls me. And we were like, let's do this. And I found out what she was doing. She found out what I was doing. And it was karma. We just had to, I'm like, you have to be on the podcast, period. So I'm so glad you said yes. So Fostoria, for those people that don't know, could you explain what the Blue Star Mothers, what that chapter is about, what it is?
Blue Star Mothers, we are mothers that have children that are currently serving in the military or have served in the past. Blue Star Mothers is a national organization. The main office is Northern Virginia, and we are chartered by the 86th Congress, and we follow DOD guidelines. And Blue Star Mothers has been around, I believe, since 1942. And our mission is to support our veterans and our military and reservists in any way that we possibly can. And we provide them humanitarian needs. We will volunteer. We will be very active in their events, as well as getting involved with the VFWs and the American Legions to support them as well.
That's awesome. And it's good that you explain that, because a lot of people, I don't think, understand what Blue Star Mothers, what they do. So thank you so much for explaining that, because, you know, there are probably mothers out there who think they don't qualify for something like that, you know, and they're able to get that support. So the Blue Star Mothers, you have a child in the military, correct?
Or a veteran.
Okay,
yes.
Awesome. Thank you for explaining that. So also you started a nonprofit called Grandma's Hands. Could you explain what that one's for, please?
Grandma's Hands, No Homeless Veteran Initiative. We support our homeless veterans that are on the streets, that does not have a lease in his or her name, and they are living on possibly the floor of a relative or on the tents, on the streets. And we provide homes, we provide career development. We will assist with resources to help the veteran get his or her claim started. We will sit down with the veteran to help him or her apply for their DD 214s. So we basically do it all. We were also supporting them as far as transportation to and from the VA. But right now with COVID, we don't have that transportation piece anymore.
Right. So if y'all didn't know, Fostoria is a jack of all trades. She does a lot. Just saying. And she does it all with a smile.
That's because I enjoy and I love what I do. I love my military. I love my veterans. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so glad that you do. So most recently.
So the title of my book, I had to think about what I wanted the title to be, because I wanted it to catch the attention of other military wives that are going through abuse, or civilians.
Right.
And, so the title, it just fit the abuse that I was going through. Because as I stated, I was married at a very young age. And little did I know that the slap, the punch, or the kick that I had endured at that early age, I was thinking, wow, that's nothing. Maybe
Right.
that's, I was sodomized, raped by my Marine husband.
That's unbelievable. I can't even imagine that for you. You know what I'm saying? That's just horrible. And the fact that you came out of it on the other side is remarkable in and of itself. And I'm looking at the cover, and explain the cover. So if for those people who can't see the cover, Fostoria, explain the cover of your book for us.
Well, the Marine, his face is shaded. And the reason why his face is shaded is because I wanted the reader to see that abuse comes in all colors. It's not just an African American thing or a white thing or a Caucasian. Abuse comes in all colors.
Mm-hmm.
Marine is pressing his index finger up against his lips. And I wanted to depict the fact that abuse in the military, it's a silent shame. Because each time I was beat by my Marine husband, it was always, shh, don't go to my command. Don't ruin my career. And I remember him, as other spouses that I've interviewed in the book, that's what their Marine husband would tell them. So the finger pressed up against that is shh. And I also explains it on the back of my cover at what the Marine depicts. And the female that's on the floor with her hand between his legs, she's holding on for dear life, because that was her supporter. That was her husband. That was someone that she loved. And she thought that this person would be in her life forever, that they would be married forever. Right. So it picks that, even though I have the bruises, and the subtitle is Dress Bruise. Even though she has the bruises on her legs, on her arms, she's still holding on.
Right.
Because this is who she made her vows with, for better or worse. And as you read the book, you will find out that it was for worse. Now, let me explain something. There were some great times being married to him, but the abuse and the sodomy and the rape, it was more times than I could count, that I could imagine. But don't get me wrong, we did have a good life. We really did.
So I have a question for you. Was there a sense of, I'm sure that did you know of other battered women, and did you guys kind of cling together as kind of a support thing, or did you know that other women were being battered?
All the above. We were Marine wives that were married in the 75 and 76. So it's a different era than what it is today. We clinged on to each other because we were all we had. You have to understand, during our era, we did not have the support of the family advocacy programs. We did not have the support of the domestic violence task force that the military has now. We didn't have any of that. We didn't have the information that we could go to our husbands' commands and for the chaplains. That information was not available to us. And you have to remember, it was 75. So we didn't have the access to Google or text phone. So we couldn't just text each other, say, hey, come over, my husband's beating the hell out of me.
Right.
We couldn't do that. So we had each other. It was each of us that got each one through.
So do you think that it's as bad now or as prevalent now as it was then? Or is it just people know about it more, so they're on the lookout? Now we've got the Google and the and the cell phone and all of that. Do you think it's as bad now as it was before, or is it just more out in the open now?
I think right now I think it's more out in the open. And I'm sure a lot of people listen to the news and they hear what's going on with several of the Army females that were killed or raped. I think it's more now that the military is focusing on it more than what they did, because there are more programs now for the battered spouses and the into partners. So they, like I stated earlier, they have the domestic violence task force that the DOD put into place. And they know about all the services, because the family advocacy programs on each of the bases, they have great programs for that right now. Right. But, the military is doing a better job now than they did in our era, to the fact that its spouses are starting to speak up. And you have to understand, it's a different generation of spouses. Married, like I said, in the 70s. The mid 70s and late 70s. And it was still the old adage, if the military wanted you to have a wife, they would put you in their sea bag.
They would have issued it to you.
Actually, I was told that when I happened to call my husband's command one morning. I had to go to work. And one of my supervisors asked me, because I went in crying, I had a black eye. And she asked me, did I call my husband's command? I said, no. I said, you know what? Because they're not going to say anything. So she forced me to call, and I did. And I called, and this guy answered the phone. I believe he was a sergeant, and he had this real country accent. And I told him who I was, and my husband just beat the hell out of me. And he said, Miss Booker, in his real country voice, well, Miss Booker, if the Marine Corps wanted Corporal Booker to have a wife, then we would have issued you into sea bag. Click.
Oh my gosh.
To this day, I wish I knew who that person was.
Oh my God. That's just awful. Cause then it feels like you don't have any help anywhere. You don't know where to go, and that's an awful feeling, not knowing what to do next, I know that there's a phrase in your book that goes like this: abuse is not a one size fits all. Can you explain that phrase, please?
Yes, that's one of the quotes I put in my book, is because even with the Marine wives that I interviewed in my book, their abuse, whether it was psychological, mental, or physical, was different than mine. We all go through different levels of abuse, different psychological levels and different physical levels. My level of abuse, I stayed for years. I did not have the courage. I did not have the self-esteem. I did not have the self-worth to get out. When other spouses did, and some stayed. So the different levels has to do with psychologically.
Right.
And I was a young bride. I was a young mother. In between the beatings came the babies. I had nowhere to go. So my level of courage to stay or to get out is different than another spouse, female, that's being abused. And as I said, it's different for everyone. Your self-esteem was beat out of me that I didn't have.
That's awful. There's a time, when you meet someone and there's a moment, and looking back. So, hindsight's 2020, what they say. You look back and you go, God, the signs were there. Why didn't I see them? Because you never want to believe that about someone, you know, you just don't. You don't want to believe that. So when did that happen for you? When was that moment when you said, okay, this is not right? Can you remember that time? Can you take us back to that time when you said, okay, this this isn't supposed to be this way?
When I believe it was when he was home. He was getting ready to go to Okinawa, Japan, and his parents. You know, he came from a well balanced family. Mother, father, sisters, brothers owned their home, well known in the neighborhood, and I used to stay there with him because my parents, it was 12 children, and so I stayed mainly there with my husband, and it went through my mind when he raped me with a metal object in the attic. I'm like, oh hell, it's not supposed to be this way.
Right.
And even though that was like the first 2 years of my marriage, and even though I was raped with the metal object, I was hung by my hands,
Mm.
the wall, and everything he did to me. Yes, that went through my mind. This
Yeah.
is not the way marriage is supposed to be.
Right.
And it was early in my marriage, and I'm thinking, you know what? He's going to change. This
Mm.
is not going to continue. But little did I know it did. And the signs were there. I ignored them. And people have to understand. And I have been asked, why did I stay? But people have to understand, especially if
Mhm.
you're right, and you're a young mother, and you have no education, and you have no means of financial support.
Right.
That person is supposed to support you and be your financial blanket. What do? Where do you go?
I think it's just really hard for someone who's never been through that to understand, because it sounds easy, just go. But where do you go? What do you do? I had an abusive relationship, and it didn't get abusive until the towards the end. So I'm one of those people that, okay, I'll go along, and then something in your gut just says, this isn't right. You need to go. And so I start to rebel. And that's when it started. So I've been reading a little bit, and they say that trying to get out is probably the most dangerous part of getting out of an abusive relationship, that you have to have a plan. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, and yes, and statistics does show, and I'm sorry, I should have pulled them up, but I did read them. That is the hardest part, because one of the biggest concerns for women that are abused, and the reason I'm going to say women is because, and I show the statistics in my book, but in my era, it was the women, because
Exactly.
there was no, or at least I didn't see them, female Marines. And so during that era, it was very hard um, to get out, because one of the main concerns that we have is finances. That's one of the biggest concerns that spouses have. If I leave my husband, who's going to take care of me and my children? Where would I get the support from? How am I
Right.
to make it? And the Marine Corps, and I left my husband a couple of times. I got on a Greyhound bus and went to my mother in Cincinnati, Ohio, and he came after me because he knew that there was nowhere else that I could go, whether I had 2 kids at the time or 5 children at the time. He knew
Mm.
where I would be. And yes, you have to set up an escape plan, and which I did. I wrote about that in my book.
Hmm.
That he was going. The Marine Corps called it TAD, temporary to additional duty. He was going there. I don't know for how many weeks, and I really didn't care.
Hmm.
The only thing that I knew of was when he left this time, this is my escape. I had to get out. And I planned when he first told me he was going to AD. I had already been looking in the area for an apartment, and we had been there for a while, so I knew. And this was in California, and I knew. So I was driving around finding a place. I finally found a place and put a deposit on. And soon as he went to AD, I packed up me and the children and moved.
Mm.
And I don't know how many weeks later that he found out. Well, when he came home, of course, because the only thing I left him, was his uniforms and clothes. So I started hearing in the neighborhood that he was looking for us.
Oh, that
And
must have been scary.
That was scary because for the weeks that he was in the field, I had peace of mind because I knew he was in the field. I did not have to worry about being tortured in my bed or raped or feet tied. I didn't have to worry about that then for those few weeks.
Mhm.
I know that once he found out where we were, and I talk about that in my book. I think that's chapter 12 under War Room. When he found out one morning, a knock on the door, and I went and opened the door, and my children were going to school, my boys. So I thought, you know what, it's one of the kids that normally come over in the morning, and they ride to school together or walk or whatever. Little did I know it was him. And I opened the door, my heart fell.
I bet.
Yes. And I told him he couldn't come in, and he pushed the door open and came in. And, I went ahead, and the children heard his voice and they ran out the room. And then I went ahead and walked them out, and they went to the bus stop. And I came back and grabbed my purse and said, hey, I got a doctor's appointment I have to leave for. And he said, you're not going anywhere. Call them and cancel it. I knew right then and there, my life flashed.
Right.
My face, because I knew that there were only going to be two ways I was going to walk out of there. And it was torture for the whole day. And I don't want to get too graphic about what he did to me.
Right.
But why I named that chapter War Room, because I had to fight for my life. I had to fight for my children to have a mother. I had to fight, and I never thought that I had to fight my Marine husband. He joined the Marines to protect our country, but who protected me?
Right.
And I do hold the Marine Corps accountable because they knew during that time what was going on, and they did nothing about it.
They looked the other way.
They looked the other way. And someone asked me, they had read my book, and they had said, Fostoria, oh my God, what you've gone through. I can't see why you do all of this. You love what you do with the veterans and with the military and everyone. And she said, my God, I would hate the Marine Corps. I said, no, ma'am, I do not. Mm-hmm. I said, you understand, my husband, he's an individual. He made those choices.
Right.
He knew right from wrong. And the majority of the beatings came from when he was drunk or tipsy or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. I said, and the Marine Corps knew. I said, yes, I do. I hold the Marine Corps accountable. I said, but just him, Marine or the branch of service, no one else, because he made these choices.
So, Fostoria, I know, I don't know. Only you know how horrible it was. And I'm going to be reading your book here over the weekend. What did you think? What did you hold on to during those beatings when he was hitting you and being abusive? What helped you through? What did you cling on to?
Well, one of the quotes in my book is, I prayed for my beatings, and I know that probably sound, kind of crazy to people. Why is she praying for her beatings? So let me explain it.
Mm-hmm.
On a certain day, if he came home, it might be a slap, it might be a punch, or it might be a kick. So if it's one of those days, I'm like, oh, okay, well, understand my frame of mind now. I'm psychologically messed up. So if it's just one of those, then, oh, you know what, that's okay. I could still survive.
Mm-hmm.
But when it gets to the point that another day, it might be, I get raped, I get sodomized with a foreign object.
Mm.
Or if I get my hands tied up and my feet tied and I'm being beat with a belt. So if I'm praying for my beatings and then he come home a next day and I'm thinking, oh my God, I think I want to have the beating that I had the day previously when it was just a slap, a punch, or a kick.
Right.
Getting raped with a,
Mm-hmm.
with an object, or hands tied, or being beat with a belt. So I pray for the lesser beatings all the time.
Oh my goodness. That's just horrific. I mean, I can't even go there. I can't. I'm like, I don't know. You incredibly strong woman. I mean, you had to be mentally and physically, because, it kind of makes sense because, he's beating you, but he's not beating the kids.
No, never, ever. He was never abusive to the kids. And then to go back, I just, what got me through, my
Mm-hmm.
faith has always been, I've always had very strong faith in God. I really have. It was my children. Every time I would look at my children and I would look in their big brown eyes or see how they enjoy just being children. My children were Marine Corps brats. They had they had a great life, all of them,
Right.
They were well fed, well educated, and but little did they know their mom was getting beat the hell out of. I did it for my children. I
Children.
went through the abuse for my children to have a mother. I very seldom thought about committing suicide because I didn't want that to mess my children up psychologically, thinking, oh my God, could I or should I have been a better child? Did I not do my math or science? What did I do wrong? Did I not clean my room? I didn't want that to affect my children psychologically, that mom didn't love us enough, that she took her own life. So I wouldn't do that
Right.
because I honestly thought that my husband would end up killing me. I honestly thought that I would be carried out in a plastic bag.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. But it was my children. And mothers and fathers, if you don't know, I mean, we will do anything for our children. And again, I went through so much abuse, all the abuse,
Right.
just to save my life so my children could have a mother.
Wow. So what would you tell someone who is listening that they're in an abusive relationship? And now we're in COVID. So according to the statistics, the abuse has escalated because we're all indoors right now. What would you tell someone who may be listening to this, what they can do to get out or get away? What kind of advice would you give them?
I'm going to speak to the military families first.
Okay.
If you are slapped, punched, or kicked by your spouse, and now since there are more, there's intimate partners, and there's men that are being abused as well. In my book, each one of my chapters is #GetOut, because if it's just a slap, believe me, it's going to continue. Listen, military spouses, if at this time you are going through any form of abuse, you have the resources we did not have. You have your chaplain that you can go to. You have the awesome family advocacy programs that they offer you guys on the basis now. You have the domestic violence task force. I believe in 2018, President Trump signed that bill that now abuse in the military is just what it is. It's abuse. It's not something that they could sweep under the carpet anymore. Mm-hmm. You 911, call the military police. Even as a military spouse, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. You have a lot of resources out there for you now. But with just one slap, punch, or kick, hashtag get out now. And for the non-military spouses, please call 911. Call the National Association for Domestic Violence. They are an awesome organization, and they are there to listen to you, to help you, and not to judge you. So please call a friend or call a neighbor, and someone that will believe you and take you in, and so you can be in a safe haven.
Mm.
Yes, I would tell all of you. Yes, hashtag get out now.
Mm. So I know that you wanted to read a portion of your book, I think in chapter 17. Can you tell our audience what that's about?
Yes, as I was writing my book, and I think I was basically finished with it, and then I was sitting on the sofa, and the Lord put it on my heart to write this, and it's sort of like a poem. However, there were 2 to 3 ladies that had asked me when I had told them my story, wow, you wore it well. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you wear abuse? Mm. Do you wear it well with a black eye? Do you wear it well with a broken arm in a sling? Do you wear it well walking around on crutches? How do you wear abuse? And I was asked that 2 or 3 times. So this is why chapter 17, the title is You Wore It Well, a Custom Fit Dress. Please design me a simple custom fit dress with these unique specifications. The collar has to fold up past my forehead to cover my black eyes and the bruises on my face. Let my hair flow down, since hair is a woman's glory. I never thought I would live to tell my story. The sleeves must be long enough to cover the bruises on my arms. I want my hands and fingers to be exposed because one day God might bless me with a Boaz to put a ring on my finger. The dress has to be long enough so no one will see the bruises on my legs or the sores on my knees from crawling away. I want my feet to show to remind me that God allowed me to walk away. Don't forget the 2 holes for my eyes because I still need to see the footprints to my destiny to which God is bringing me. Don't forget the 2 holes for my ears so I can hear God's voice telling me, I never left you, nor will I ever forsake you, my child. Leave a hole for my nose so I can breathe the air you tried to beat out of me. Leave an opening for my mouth so I can tell women that are still being abused to hashtag get out now. The top open part of the dress will remind me that the abuse that I endured for so many years is over. The dress must have a zipper down the back to remind me that the abuse is behind me now and it has come to an end. The dress must be purple to remind me of God's royalty. It's my favorite color, and the purple bruises that covered my face and body are no longer there. Most importantly, it has to be a size 16. That's when I said I do, and I made it through different levels of abuse for 16 years. If you are a woman and a victim of physical, sexual, psychological, and emotional abuse, this dress is not a one-size-fits-all. All magnitudes, black eyes, bruises, scars, rape, and a shattered heart are incomparable abuse. You best believe this dress will not be designed with spandex or any adjustments, whereas there will not be any alterations in my life to fit you or another abuser. You wore it well, we wore it well.
Wow, Fostoria, that is powerful. That I was reading along with it while you were saying, I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it just gave me chills when I was reading it. Now, I do know that part of the proceeds are going to support the military family advocacy programs and the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Is that true?
Yes, a portion of them will go to each branch of the service, their family advocacy programs, and yes, ma'am, the National Association of Domestic Violence, and some of the local battered women's shelters here in Charlotte.
Well, I do know that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and purple is the color to signify that. And Fostoria, we're going to have you back on the show in October, to talk a little bit more about this. But where can people find the book?
You can go to Amazon.com, and they do have a link, and you can just type in A Marine's Wife, A Battered Life, or you can type in Arthur and my name, Fostoria Pierson.
And Fostoria, if people need to reach out to you, where can they find you? What's a good email address for you?
I can be reached at bluestarmommy@yahoo.com. Again, blue as in the color, star as in the sky, mommy as I am and so many of you @yahoo.com.
That's great. I think that if they were to just type in your name, Fostoria, they'd probably find you. I don't know too many people whose name is Fostoria. So they should be able to find you very quickly. Fostoria, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. What's not a pleasure is knowing that this is still a thing. I'm so glad that you were here to tell your story. And usually, for people who listen to my podcast, it's like a back and forth, it's a banter, but I really wanted people to hear what you had to say. So if you're like, oh, Kat's not talking, I want Fostoria to speak. I want her to tell her story. And so people can truly listen and understand that you don't know who your abuser is. You don't know which person walking by you could be an abuser. You don't know that. And they come, just like you said, in all shapes, forms, colors, etc. Fostoria, it has been such a pleasure having you on Sisters in Service. And I hope that you will come back in October. Would you, if I asked you?
Yes, ma'am. I sure will. Just let me know.
Awesome. So for everyone that was listening, thank you so much. Again, please take care of each other and stay safe. And until next time, I hope you will join us again for episode 15 on April 20th, when I will interview a woman local to North Carolina who uses horses to help veterans create a toolbox of relaxation techniques to help participants in real-life situations. In the meantime, please stay safe, take care of each other. Until next time.